It happened again. What happened again, you might ask? Well, League of Legends has gone down, completely offline. But this one is a bit interesting because if you've been on the internet in the last 24 hours, you may have also noticed that a lot of other websites went down too. So what happened? Well, it's all because of one company that you may have heard of before, Cloudflare. Cloudflare is a tech company that offers a lot of services, but most notably, these are services that are ironically meant to protect your product from downtime, not cause it. If this box on the left is the internet, and this box on the right is the product or website or game, in this case League of Legends, Cloudflare sits in the middle. Here, in the middle, it can do things like prevent DDoS attacks. So if Cloudflare detects a bunch of traffic coming in from an attack that would normally take the game offline, it can distribute this traffic over a bunch of different servers that can take the brunt of the load. The combination of this and their other services is so appealing that nearly 50% of the world's most popular websites will use Cloudflare in one way or another. In fact, even the website that's meant to tell you when websites are down, which is downdetector.com, uses Cloudflare. So when you went to go check why whatever game or website of your choice wasn't working, you couldn't even do that. So what actually happened? Surely for a company of this magnitude with this much infrastructure, something must have gone horribly wrong. After all, these guys are consistently setting records for blocking the largest DDoS attacks of all time. At first, people thought that it was an unprecedented DDoS attack, one that maybe they can't protect against for whatever reason. There's been a huge influx of attacks lately from the Isuru botnet. And a botnet is essentially a network of computers that's infected with a rat or some other type of malware that lets them be commandeered by a hacker to send traffic. The reason the Isuru botnet is so impressive is because it includes a lot of IoT devices, which allows it to reach a much higher volume than a botnet that affects just PCs or something. And by the way, an IoT device is like an Alexa or a Google Home or a smart light or a smart fridge or anything like that. Those stupid things. I'm going to stop there because I'm going to go on a rant. But anyway, just hours before Cloudflare went down, Microsoft copped a 15.74 terabit attack from the Isuru network, which is, according to them, the largest DDoS attack ever observed in the cloud, hitting nearly 3.64 billion packets per second. When the warning signs began at Cloudflare a few hours later, they were concerned that this might be a continuation of the recent spate of high-volume Isuru attacks. But it wasn't any sort of attack. It was one single internal file. One single file versus the entire monolith that is Cloudflare. And the file ended up winning. Then it proceeded to take down League of Legends, RuneScape, Twitter, and just generally most of the internet. So what even is it, and why does it matter, and how did that stop you from playing League? Cloudflare have a file that they use to help identify whether or not a request came from a bot or a real human. It's filled with approximately 60 various machine learning features that help with this identification, and it's propagated every 5 minutes to every single machine on the Cloudflare network. There's software on these machines that checks to make sure the amount of features is under 200. Normally, this is fine. After all, 60 is a lot less than 200. So where did it go wrong? I'm going to explain this next part in League terms. It's a little technical, but I'm going to do the best I can. Cloudflare has what's called a sharded database. Instead of having one huge database, it's split into smaller, more manageable portions. If you imagine the League client, when you click on the store and go into champions, it's making a request to a database to fetch all the existing League champions. In a sharded database, champions 1 to 50 might exist in shard 1, champions 51 to 100 in shard 2, 101 to 150 in shard 3, and so on. You don't want to reach out to all of these individually, so you'd actually make a request to the middleman database, which will then reach out and collect all of the information you need from the individual shards. Queries to these distributed shards run through a shared system account, which is actually the account that has explicit access to these underlying tables. However, Cloudflare are in the process of trying to make these queries run on the initial user's account instead. This is helpful if they want to grant or restrict additional access and track who's doing what based on the user. So they gradually begin updating their database clusters, and all seems well, right? Well, this is where, weirdly, their system began randomly going down, but then sometimes coming back up every 5 minutes. The problem is that some of the existing queries, like the one that created the bot management file, don't explicitly state which database to get the data from. So now that users can directly view metadata from the underlying shards, a query will actually return data from the default database, but then also duplicate data from each of the shards that are being checked, turning a 60 feature file into one over 200. Again, this file was being generated every 5 minutes by a database query, in the middle of them gradually updating their system. This caused their services to randomly switch between functional and failing, because if the query ran on one of the updated parts of the database, it would generate the bad file, but if it ran on one of the older parts of the cluster that hadn't been updated yet, everything was fine. You can see the results of this in the graph here. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down, and then as the update is applied more and more, it gradually moves to being fully broken. And according to the Cloudflare team, this is what made them think initially that they were being attacked. because if you have some sort of internal error, it's a bit unusual that it'll break, but then recover and fix itself for a period and then break again. This was Cloudflare's worst outage since 2019. Incidents like this, and recently the AWS outage that also took half the internet down, really makes you think about how much we all rely on one or two services to keep the majority of the internet afloat. But I suppose until someone comes up with a better solution, it's what we're stuck with. Anyway, you should be able to go queue ranked in shitpost on Twitter again. Have fun.